and this terror, this savagery cannot be justified by anyone. Colonel Rich Outzen, is the international community monitoring this closely, and do you believe this is going to go beyond Israel? Because take a look at the list of countries that support Hamas and Hezbollah and the presence of ISIS. What do you have? You have Middle East, you have East and North Africa, you have Egypt, Libya, Syria, Iraq. The big question here is this going to spill over?
Well, I think it already has. I think you can look at this as part of a multi-front war against the existing arrangements in the Middle East and Europe by the Iranians. There are today Iranian drones, suicide drones, that are hitting targets in Ukraine on behalf of Russia. There are today Iranians that are active running militias. The IRGC is advising militias in Iraq fighting against the Kurdistan regional government and trying to depose our allies in Erbil. And there's IRGC training fighters and militias in Syria to fight against the Syrian opposition and also to bring in weapons to fight Israel. So, in fact, this has already spilled over. Now, I want to also agree with the notion that Hamas, which has become almost entirely a proxy of the Iranians, cannot be left in charge of Gaza from sort of a geopolitical and a practical perspective. There is, however, there's an option here. And the United States, and I've been a part of these efforts, spent an immense amount of effort to train Palestinian security forces, which has been referred to as the Dayton Mission, to try to provide Israeli-compatible security in the West Bank. Unfortunately, the United States also had a contradictory policy of allowing Hamas to continue its undemocratic rule in Gaza. And what we've seen is the failure of the premise that if we treat Hamas like a responsible force, if Israel allows them to have fairly normal commerce, that they will moderate. And they have not. They've only become more extreme. I think that the United States and other countries that are watching this in Europe understand that Israel cannot let this terror base deepen the way it is. And yet, if there's going to be a follow-on regime that's better than what Hamas is doing now, it's probably going to have to be on the base of Fatah and the Palestinian Authority, Ramallah. But this means that the quality of the Israelis' care when they are taking this operation on must be immaculate. And why do I say that? Because whichever Palestinian is going to rule Gaza after Hamas is going to have to explain to its own people why that's better than what Hamas did. And if there are thousands of dead civilians in and around Gaza, even though the Israelis, in my experience, take great pains to be as precise as they can about targeting, this is going to make it almost impossible for a subsequent regime to govern. So that let me just wrap it up with a final comment that I think Europe, even the Germans, who tend to be very balanced on these things, the United States, France, UK, are firmly on the side of Israel taking necessary actions for its self-defense. But as with all such operations in Israel's history, there's a clock ticking where the West, the United States and the others are watching to see how long will this take, how well will you protect civilian lives, and what is the plan for a better political status quo afterwards.
Absolutely.